Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Coleman's contradictions. Also, the V-Team takes a look at Bell's candor problem. And Speaker Mike Hubbard still says he's innocent.
Barzini's dead. So is Philip Tattaglia. Mo Green. Stracci. Cuneo. Today I settle all family business, so don't tell me you're innocent, Carlo.
You're going to have to answer for Santino, Mikey. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome back.
Good morning. Glad to be back
Glad
with y'all
to have
this week.
everybody.
Yeah.
Missed you guys last week.
Jack will be back soon. He's taking a little sabbatical for a while, but he sends his love and regards.
So nice.
We know he's doing another good duty he needs to do. That's all I'm
He
gonna
is
say.
that.
He is that.
I'm very proud of Jack.
This week, we had a hearing at Judge Walker's court for Mike Hubbard, in which we learned the judge talked about Baron Coleman gave a contradictory statement, the judge feels.
Shocker?
Yeah, well, it is a little shocker. Judge Walker read this out loud, where on October 30th, Baron Coleman said he knew nothing about a grand jury. And then Judge Walker said, now he comes with an affidavit before my court and says he knew everything about the grand jury. And Judge Walker said, I want Mr. Coleman in that chair, the witness stand, and I want him under oath, and I want him to tell me. Susan, you were there. It was dramatic.
It was very dramatic. We've sat in Judge Walker's courtroom more than once, and he was visibly very upset with this. He read the October 20th statement that Coleman gave to him, standing in his court. In fact, he even pointed to where Coleman was standing when he gave the statement, saying that he knew nothing about the grand jury. And then for him to come in February 2nd and say now he knew everything about the grand jury. In fact, Lance Bell went on to say that one of the phone conversations was actually pre-indictment. But the indictment was the 17th of October. So if he knew something pre-indictment, then he certainly lied on October the 20th.
Well, I mean, these are lawyers, Claire. They parse words, but this doesn't look good to this judge.
Well, okay. First of all, my word, it's all egregious. And it's very sad for those of us who have been associated with him. But the bottom line is a man and a lawyer says one thing and then he says something else. You know, I would presume that he's probably got some legal issues with the state bar, and I presume he must be in a difficult situation for a man of Baron Coleman's supposedly stature who worked with us on this TV show and used to be on the radio and ran campaigns to do a 180. You know, I hope that I will say this to the viewers. Facts always trump fiction. And the facts are going to trump his fiction. And I hope whatever he did, presumably, suggestionally, whatever he did to sell his soul to the devil, that he's going to have to pay for that.
If he didn't have legal problems before, I think he may have legal problems
no
now.
question.
And then that's one of the things that's really upsetting Judge Walker. Either one or the other of these, either the testimony or the affidavit is perjury.
Well, as everybody said to us, Beth, and you've heard this morning, were you lying to me then?
Are you lying
Are
now?
you lying to me now? I mean, that's the big question everyone wants to know.
Well, and when he
finished,
signed,
go ahead.
when he signed that first motion to quash and the affidavit saying I know nothing, you know, as an attorney, when you sign a pleading, which what a motion is, you're saying, to the best of my knowledge, there is good cause to support this. And when you sign an affidavit, it's a sworn statement under oath. So not only like the professional standards as an attorney, but the personal standards of an American under oath in our justice system. You know, You can't lie to the court. It's just, as a citizen, but especially as an attorney, you just can't do it.
You're right. You hit the nail on the head, particularly as an attorney. And after this is all said and done, I'm assuming he's going to get on a mule or a pack horse or something and ride out of Alabama because he's not going to have a whole lot of
there's not many
opportunities.
people that think he's welcome, and that's sad. You know, we all spend
is.
a lot of time with Baron. But I tell you, to get up there and say, now I had 50 or 100 conversations. And one of the things that Baron told us is he said, you know, this affidavit, it's not a big deal. I don't accuse Hart of any wrongdoing. And that story will only be a 2-day story. It's lasted a lot longer than 2 days. I mean, this has been the gift that keeps on giving in a very negative
Well, Judge
way.
Walker thought it was a big enough deal that he set to a hearing for March 3rd to hear him. And I think there's another attorney that may have some troubles with this issue, and that's Lance Bell.
I think it is. Beth, isn't there a professional conduct where an attorney has an obligation to tell the whole truth to the court?
I think it's Section 3, professional conduct. I haven't taken ethics yet, but I think there is a rule in there that you have to present material facts that are necessary to what you're saying. So you can't just withhold material facts. You have to present them in the light most favorable to your client, but you can't just outright lie by omission to the court.
Well, one of the things that Judge
The
Walker...
Candor rules.
Yeah,
right.
Candor rules.
One of the things that Judge Walker pointed out, it was Lance Bell who went to Aaliyah, who arranged for Coleman to see him. It was Lance Bell that arranged for Coleman to talk to the Alabama bar. He orchestrated this.
And why? The question should be to the judge and the prosecution, and why did Lance Bell arrange all this for Baron Coleman?
Yeah.
And here's another question. The judge asked Lance Bell directly, did you prepare this affidavit? To which Lance Bell said no. But later on, the judge kept pushing him. He said, well, you know, I had some involvement with it in some drafts, and we sent it to Coleman. He sent it back with a lot of changes. If he helped with that affidavit, and he states in there that Baron Coleman was contacted by law enforcement, when he was the one that contacted law enforcement for Baron Coleman, you've got another problem.
Well, the other thing...
And we know that. We know that they contacted law enforcement. Law enforcement did not contact
According to Lance Bell, Coleman contacted him on January the 3rd, and then Bell contacted law enforcement on January the 5th. And there's another an affidavit that came out this week that states that, yes, indeed, Lance Bell contacted John Taylor at Aaliyah, and that he's the one who scheduled Baron Coleman to come in and meet.
And John Taylor, known as Hal Taylor, has been removed from Aaliyah. We don't know if he's fired or if he just was demoted. But it turns out, people say he was a mole for Mike Hubbard.
Well, excuse me, wait a minute. Let's back up, viewers. He came in with Bob Riley. He was Bob Riley's executive assistant. Now, I like how he's a great guy, but there's no question he was a mole for Mike Hubbard.
But
he's
I got
been
one better.
connected to all them.
I've even got one better than that. Guess who Lance Bell contacted on behalf of Gene Sisson to get his testimony to the FBI in the Hubbard case? Hal Taylor.
Well, Hal Taylor, he did give an affidavit in which he owned up to those facts. Now, the question before the judge, and I think, is why did they do it? Did Hubbard
everybody's question right now, though.
orchestrate this? If they did, if the judge sees this is shenanigans by Hubbard, boom, I think
Okay, wait a minute. Point being, who does Hal Taylor's wife work for? Former Governor Bob Riley is who Mr. Taylor's wife works for.
Well, it's a stinky kettle of fish. I think it's going to get a lot worse.
Egregious.
Yeah, we're going to have to hold it right there. You're watching The V on our casual set. We'll be right back.
My son, Thomas, has cystic fibrosis. The National Institutes of Health do a wonderful job with CF research, but keeping them a priority with our government can be challenging. I asked Senator Shelby if he could help, and boy, did he. He's become an absolutely tireless advocate for families like mine. He's literally saved thousands of lives.
Richard Shelby looks out for us every single day.
I'm Richard Shelby, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. This week, Chuck Dean with AL.com printed a story, a fairly routine story, and then dropped the bomb that Spencer Collier had disobeyed Governor Bentley's order by signing an affidavit that he was asked to sign. Spencer was happy to sign it, from what we understand, and all that affidavit said was what Baron Coleman told Aaliyah and the results of an Aaliyah investigation based on Coleman's testimony before them. And he says, Beth, that Bentley said that Spencer had disobeyed his order, and then they put him on 3 months medical leave. Spencer Collier has a very bad back. He's had 6 surgeries. But Spencer Collier has been one of Governor Bentley's most loyal supporters. This thing, I don't believe Dean's report when he says that Spencer was forced to sign it by Matt Hart. And I question this loyalty issue with the governor.
First of all, you can't force anyone to sign an affidavit under oath. Like, how do you compel someone to do that? You can't. So, I mean, it's my understanding, too, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that the governor's attorneys had a role in preparing this affidavit, right? So they were aware that this was going on. And it seems like maybe somebody didn't like the way it's playing out, and they're trying to flip the script back a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it's weird. I mean, the governor's going to moonwalk through that wall if he's not careful trying to backtrack on this.
Well, I mean, let's face it. David Byrne is the lawyer's general counsel. David Byrne is a very fine man and a fine lawyer with strong ethics and integrity. He's not going to overstep his boundaries with the governor. He would never lie and double-cross the governor. And remember, Spencer Collier's been in law enforcement all his life. Now, whether I go to Beth and talk to her and say, you know, this is what's going on, you can either do this or I'm going to subpoena you, okay?
Right.
So you know, either way, you're going to sign an affidavit to me because that is the way the law is.
Or you can get hauled in and get deposed. One or the other. What would you rather do?
But let me just, you know, being this week up the State House, there's a lot of rumblings going on that the reason that the governor did this because he's playing footsie because he don't want to make the speaker mad over budget issues, which I say, okay, what the heck? But,
well, the thing is that they're accusing, Dean's article accuses Matt Hart of threatening Spencer Collier. Susan, we've known Spencer Collier a long time. Nobody threatens Spencer Collier.
No, you're not going to threaten him. I mean, he's one of the good old Alabama boys that just soon take you out behind the woodshed and teach you what's what. And so, you know, both of them are very tough characters. But one thing about both of them, I can say without a doubt, they honor truth above anything else. They honor the law above anything else.
Because they've both been in law enforcement all their career.
So I'm sure that Spencer Collier felt like it was his duty, if he had knowledge regarding Baron Coleman, it was his duty to do this.
Well, Spencer Collier spent a lot of his career driving the back roads of Alabama at night with the only thing between him and the bad guys was a car door and his revolver.
That's right.
And that's important. But also, just when people say he's on leave, he is on medical leave because he already had planned and scheduled back surgery. Because remember, he was supposed to be on our show, I think, like a month ago, and he couldn't do it because of his back.
And that is why he's on leave. But it makes it look, the Dean article makes it look like Governor Bentley
like he's been suspended,
him.
right? Like he's been.
These are just the little tiny details, what I call the Paul Harvey rest of the story.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, Governor Bentley did say, he did tell him that he did not want him to sign the affidavit, not to sign an affidavit. Craig Ford, minority leader, Democrat, came out Thursday, I think it was, and said the governor of this state has committed obstruction of justice, a very damning allegation. But I've heard it from other people, Beth.
He has a duty to uphold the Constitution. I mean, he has a duty to do what's best for the state of Alabama, not to do what's best for the Speaker of the House or for the budget or for anything else. The duty to do what's best for all of us and all of the people out there that elected him. That's his job. Susan,
this thing really has gotten nasty, and we've lost the focus that this is really about whether Mike Hubbard 23 indictments should be adjudicated. I mean, this is for a jury, but all we're doing is sideshow, sideshow, sideshow.
This has been the way it's been orchestrated since the beginning, is as a sideshow. It's never focused on the fact that he's got 43 felony indictments.
23.
23, I'm sorry, 43.
That's okay.
23
It's so
felony
egregious these days.
Yeah, I know.
And
I
there's
just
only
keep
43
adding
because they
all
couldn't
of
find the
this.
rest of
And
them.
there's 21.
We're not
sure.
done. I don't think they're done with them yet. But, I mean, really, this is taking the focus off of it, which is what it's designed to do.
Well, and remember, too, that we've got a jury pool that has not been chosen yet, and that they're reading these articles.
Well,
and
they're
so
trying to take the
That's
jury
what I'm
pool.
saying.
There's no
That's
question that's what
my
they're
point,
doing.
is that they're trying to make this look like, I don't know, reasonable doubt. And, you know, what I don't understand is if the speaker is innocent, and he's so convinced he's innocent, then why is he trying to turn this into a circus? And if the prosecution is so convinced he's guilty, why would the prosecution have a need to turn this into a circus? At the end of the day, this isn't a house of cards. This is the justice system. State your facts, show your case, and let jury prevail.
I mean, this is like the gods of chaos have come down and joined the gods of carnage. And I mean, we don't know who the next victim is. I mean,
Well,
it's just
pathetic.
absolutely
It's an
crazy.
You know, it's an embarrassment to us because we live here, but it's an embarrassment all over the United States of America, the circus that has gone on for over 2 years.
Well, you know, the crazy thing is Mike Hubbard controls the House completely, right?
Absolutely, no question.
This week, he got 30 lawmakers, some few Democrats, some Republicans, to come forward and sign a letter to the United States Attorney Loretta Lynch and to U.S. Attorney George Beck, saying that they needed to investigate Matt Hart. Now, who thinks that Mike Hubbard didn't orchestrate that? I mean, really.
He's got them all collected right down there at the State House. Can't imagine. Somebody just didn't.
Some of your folks are on that list.
I am appalled to see the 2 Democrats sign that letter. It's so offensive to me. The way that the speaker runs the House, the way that, good progressive legislation just gets railroad day in and day out. The fact that 2 Democrats would think that it was advantageous to them in any way, or the people that they're elected to represent, that they would sign this letter, I can't understand it. I just can't understand it.
But I'm going to tell you something. It is advantageous to them
Because
personally,
now
not
their
to
bills
their
will get
people
up.
in their
Right.
district that they
They'll
represent.
get to take the trip.
And
They'll
that's
get to do the
unfortunate.
things. Right.
I tell you, the fact that this bunch would sell their soul for a committee assignment is just disgraceful. They all should be, they're actually traitors to the state as far as I'm concerned. I'll take them outside, line them up against the wall, and throw rocks at them.
Well, what I want to know too, Claire, I want to see with the 30 people who signed this letter and the people, 75 who didn't, I want to see whose bills get passed and who don't.
Well, those 30-something are going to get passed. But I look forward to those 30-something when they run for election and 2 more years.
Right.
Side
They have constituents to answer
And
to.
surprise, surprise, Ed Henry's on there. We got to leave it right there. You're watching the V. We'll be right back with some more news and analysis.
You can't just leave it right there.
My son, Mike Spann, was the first American to die in Afghanistan. They said he couldn't be buried in Arlington Cemetery. I called Senator Shelby and told him the story. 15 minutes later, he called and said, Mike's gonna be buried in Arlington. People listen to Shelby.
Richard Shelby looks out for us every single day.
I'm Richard Shelby, and I approve this message.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
Sadly, this happens too often in families with autistic children.
First nightmare, their child wanders off, disappears, and is nowhere to be found.
Where her body was found just a couple hours ago.
An autistic boy wanders away from home and dies.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Senator Dick Brubaker from Montgomery has come up with what seems to be a really terrific bill. It establishes an Innocence Inquiry Commission, which they established in North Carolina in 2002. Basically, it allows a group selected, put together, judges, DAs, police officers, victims, advocates, to listen to evidence, new evidence, in a capital murder case or serious case like that. Listen to the evidence that was left out or evidence that's come forward recently that would exonerate a person. And they can make a recommendation to fast track it to the court, or they can actually exonerate the person. This has been working in North Carolina. It happened after 2 capital murder cases were found that folks sitting on death row were absolutely innocent. And this is also used in Texas. It's been a part of the British legal system for years, and it seems like a pretty good idea.
It does, and especially when you look at the fact, as Brian Stevenson from the Equal Justice Initiative says, as many as 1 in 10 inmates on death row are later exonerated. And if you look at that statistic and you think if 1 in 10 airplanes fell out of the sky, we would never let anyone fly, but yet we still execute people in Alabama when 10% of them could be innocent. So we've got to have something, because if you're convicted, you can't find a job, you can't keep your life on track. And if you're wrongfully convicted, that's a travesty to justice. It's not acceptable.
Is this all because of the Alabama justice and Sam Waters and the gentleman that they supposedly is on death row that killed the clerk at the store that's from Talladega?
Right. It's not about...
but that's really brought this to the surface.
I talked to Senator Brubaker about it, and he said, listen, this is bigger than one case. But yeah, I think that was
That's brought it to him.
Yeah, that brought it. But this thing right here is so interesting because, look, Brubaker says, I am pro death penalty, but if we're going to have that death penalty, we need to have checks to make sure that we got it right. Absolutely.
He also went on to say this will strengthen the death penalty law here in that we're checking every which way we can before we actually execute someone to make sure that they are guilty.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like with that guy, they withheld the evidence in this murder trial, and he's been on death row 22 years.
If you listen to Sam,
it's pretty compelling.
I don't know if y'all kept up with the podcast Serial, but they followed the case of Adnan Syed in, I think, New Jersey, and all of the evidence in that case. And this was a child convicted of murder. And, even now, it's been 15 years, and new evidence is coming to light. They're doing hearings, and this kid's been on death row, or not on death row, excuse me, he's been in prison since he was 18 years old.
Well, listen, Texas, they have a fast service execution. If they have a commission like this, and North Carolina, which is a very well-run state, I commend Brubaker for doing that.
I think, and North Carolina is very fast-forward and forward-thinking, and the whole sentencing structure. I remember when I was in the AG's office, we looked at North Carolina. Unfortunately, in Alabama, we tend to take things like this to prolong things. But I commend you for this, and I hope that this can work for a better justice system.
But Brubaker also said that one of the reasons he wants to do this commission is it takes the lawyers out of it that are going to try to drag it out so that they get more and more fees and make a bunch of money off of it. This commission will actually lower the costs.
Right, and it fast tracks what it can. It seems like a good idea. One of the more interesting things that we heard this week, it was sort of like an afterthought in a committee meeting, that Paul Sanford has put together a bill that would legalize fantasy sports gaming in Alabama, which is right now it's only legal in Nevada, and tax it. Imagine that.
Wait a minute. I noticed this the first day of the session, and I've called some people, because people have been playing fantasy football and fantasy sports. They have clubs all around the state of Alabama.
It's been around forever.
It's been around forever. They just don't tax them.
Right.
Well, and we play, my friends and I have a fantasy football league, and we don't put any money on it because Lord knows I'm not any good at it. I got stuck with Kaepernick this year. But, we've got people playing this kind of stuff all the time, but when you look at these big companies that are making money off of it, it's not the friends doing the $10 buy-in. It's DraftKings that we need to be looking at.
No, it's billions of dollars.
And this sounds a lot like the internet tax. How exactly are they going to regulate this? What giant organization are they going to have to create to regulate this and to actually go to people's houses?
And how much are we going to spend?
Are you playing fantasy?
How much are we going to spend versus how much we make off of it?
One of the opponents of the bill said, well, we need to we need to make it so people can't get to that on the internet. What are we, Syria? Are we China? We're going to shut up.
Are we going to show up at people's doors, knock on their door, make them take an oath, and then say, are you playing fantasy football?
Is Kim Jong-un going to be our new governor? You can't see that.
I thought Republicans were about less government intrusion versus more government intrusion.
It depends on whether
We've seen a few votes on that this week, Claire.
That's pretty funny. I tell you, one of the most disheartening things this week, and I don't know if it's real or imagined, is that they've pushed through all these sunset bills. I mean, the House during session on Thursday, the people on that committee left the House floor and went in and passed the sunset bills out so that they can get them on fast track. Excuse me, which means the only thing they have left to do now is pass the two budget,
right,
and they can go home. Not that I'm not for it, but why would they be doing that, Susan?
Well, first of all, that's all they're constitutionally obligated to do. Second of all, Speaker Hubbard's trial is coming up at the end of March.
You think so?
If they can get these sunsets done, now the Senate took up the sunset bills starting on day 4. Traditionally, they wait until day 10.
Or 11, because it has to constitutionally be done by the 11th legislative day.
Right. So they're moving all of this back around so that we got plenty of time for the Hubbard trial. It just smells of it.
It's
really disheartening.
Why the Democrats only have limited filibuster power here, so we have cloture petitions, but I don't understand why the Democrats are not filibustering every single thing that comes across.
Well,
just put the brakes on.
They did start doing that something today in the House. Well, the problem is you got some Democrats that are in the claw of Mike Hubbard, and they're getting something out of the candy and the goodie bag.
That's why you see the same 5 or 6 coming to the microphone every day, and they can only run the
see their
clock
signatures
out.
on the bottom of that letter too.
Yeah, well, I mean, this man, Speaker Mike Hubbard, is holding the entire state hostage. This guy has got to go. I mean, where are the people?
You're correct, but unfortunately, you have 107 members in that 105, excuse me, in that body allowing him to do that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But the people's business is being held up by one man in the state. We have so many people, there's so many programs that need help, and this budget needs looking at. Seriously, we've got real problems here. This is not something that they should just be rushing through.
Don't forget, though, the budget's supposed to be the first thing we vote on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, that's not going to happen. That's the carrot and the stick. All right, we're going to leave it right there. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we're watching them.